The crowd didn't get really serious until the National Guard was ordered to disperse the crowd. And so they moved forward on the crowd. And this is an open area. It's in the Commons area where I said they had the rally on the Friday. Same area, same victory bell. And they're all forming around there and speeches, and all of a sudden the National Guard is put into motion. And they fire tear gas.
Which is a sort of extreme.
Well, yeah, but the kids picked it up and threw it back at the National Guard. So, and all of these are like from pictures that you'd seen from other campuses. And so they marched on the students. It's open area, so they just kind of, the students would give way in front and kind of move around behind. And they marched up through the Commons, up the hill, past a building called Taylor Hall, and onto a practice football field. They marched across the practice football field where there's a chain link fence. They stopped at the chain link fence and had no idea what to do. They didn't know where they were going. They hadn't, their leadership had no idea what to do. So they kind of decided to march around and back. So now they're marching back to where they were. Students are still around them. So they were totally ineffective. The kids were throwing rocks at them. They didn't know where they were going. And if you think about who you had now, the National Guard sitting at this top of this hill next to Taylor Hall, and they're having people throwing rocks at them. It's a warm day, it's noon, the sun's overhead. They're wearing these old gas masks, which covered their whole face and had, big eyes and things like that. They couldn't see. And these are kids that are in the National Guard. The only reason they're in the National Guard is they worked on the farms and needed to be there for the family. So they joined the Guard so that they get a deferment from being drafted. You go through that. At one point, nobody knows why, but they opened fire. There was one shot, and nobody, somebody said it was a sniper. There never was a sniper. Somebody said it was fireworks. There never was fireworks that they know of. But there was one shot, and then there was a series of shots, about 60 of them, and they were with these M1 rifles, which had a huge bullet, and they just fired almost at random on the students. I think they panicked. I don't know why they'd aim at students, because the students were not a threat to them. They did throw rocks at them, so I mean, to that extent, they might have perceived a threat, but that was a problem, and they just opened fire, and that was the shootings that everybody remembers. I was taking photos of the whole thing. I actually was down and found myself a guy who was standing outside of the university's gymnasium, which is where the National Guard was bivouacked. They were staying there, and he was guarding that and so I looked over, and he had a .45 caliber pistol strapped to his side, and I thought, well, they won't take my camera if I'm standing next to a guard with a pistol. But I was probably 100 yards from where the shootings were when I was taking pictures throughout the whole thing. So.